So, Terry's legacy continues today because of what happens in schools. Not only here in Nova Scotia, but across Canada. I think it's something like 9,000 schools have participated, will be participating in Terry Fox runs this month. And I know you guys are doing your walk run later on this afternoon, so it's awesome. Terry could never have imagined. I understand you watched the CTV movie before I arrived, and it's great. In fact, I watched it for the second. The movie was made in 2005, and I watched it for only the second time myself about 3 weeks ago. It was on TV back home, and it's a great movie. Our family worked with the CTV to create that movie, and it tells Terry's story so well. So thank you for sitting through that and watching that and spending some time with me this morning. I'm hoping I can share a little bit about what it was like to grow up with Terry. Terry and I are only 14 months apart in age. I'm the oldest brother, and so just like any of you that have a sibling, a brother, sister, older or younger, Terry and I, especially when we were your age, even grade 5s and 6s, we were up to grade 9 and 10 and to senior high school, we were doing everything together. We played together, we competed, we challenged, we were very competitive growing up. Always involved in things, so I'm hoping through my slides to be able to share a little bit about that with you. A lot of these pictures you're going to see might even look familiar to you compared to your own family photos. I went through my mom and dad's photo albums and pulled some pictures of Terry and I when we were younger. A lot of the pictures, as I was your age, I was taking a lot of photos. I was interested in photography, taking pictures, and then during the Marathon of Hope as well. So I'm hoping to do that. I know you hear and you talk and you learn and listen about, and you learn things about Terry at this time of year, and maybe this is the only time of year you do that. You might think of Terry Fox as being somebody that's famous, somebody that's a Canadian hero, somebody that you don't really connect to, that you just read about in September. Hopefully I can make that connection. Terry wasn't out there running to become rich or famous or to be known as a Canadian hero 37 years later. None of that mattered. If you make your way from St. John's, Newfoundland to Victoria, BC, you'll find statues across the country. 14 schools in this country are named after Terry. There's roads, there's a mountain in British Columbia named Terry Fox, Mount Terry Fox. None of that stuff would have mattered to Terry. All that mattered to Terry was that he knew during the Marathon of Hope that what he was doing every day was eventually going to make a difference. That what he did and that sacrifice that he made in 1980 would eventually impact the lives of so many people. And I can tell you it has. It's made a true difference. So I want to thank everybody here for what you do, Ms. McDonald and the staff that are involved in organizing the event here. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen without teachers, volunteers, schools. I mean, we talk about schools, and if it wasn't for educators and sharing Terry's story, who knows where Terry's legacy would be today. So, our family and the Terry Fox Foundation owe so much to that. So let me get started. Guys, I'm going to have to squeeze through you here, and every now and then I'm going to change the slide. So, as I mentioned, Terry and I were, as mentioned by Ian, I think, that we were born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And Mom and Dad were both born in Manitoba, Dad in Winnipeg, Mom in a small farming community. And in this photo here, Terry's only 2 years old. Daryl and Judy, brother and sister, aren't born yet. So it's just Terry and I. Terry's 2 and I'm 3. And again, even from a young age, we were doing everything together. Terry's in the back of the car, the toy car. I'm in the front. I'm 3 years old, already driving. Let me get out of the way here. Transcona. If you know anything about the Marathon of Hope, you just watched the movie. So Doug Alward, the character in there that played Doug Alward, I say, awesome. Thank you. Doug Allward, I refer to as the best friend ever. You know, Terry and Doug, as I'll refer to later, met when they were a very young age, and Doug was the guy that drove the van. Terry came up with this idea of running across Canada, asked Doug if he would join him. Terry wasn't going to make his way across the country by himself, so he asked Doug, and Doug sacrificed that spring and summer of 1980 to join Terry. When they arrived in St. John's, Doug had certain responsibilities. To not only drive the van, keep track of where Terry was, to support Terry, but phone ahead to schools in April, May, and June to let them know that Terry was coming. The media, every now and then, Doug had to cook the odd meal. Terry stopped every 2 miles for a water break and maybe get an orange as well. And Terry was running every day. He was running close to 42 kilometers every day. As you can imagine, they were living in this small little camprise van. They had all the responsibilities, lots of pressure, lots of stress. They weren't getting, after a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, they weren't getting along very well. And I can't remember how much the movie talks about that, but they weren't getting along very well, and that's where Daryl came in. Daryl joined, little guy sitting between Terry and I. Daryl joined Terry and Doug in St. John, New Brunswick, and was able to help out with some of the chores, and after that, everything went pretty smoothly. One of the things that Terry and Doug argued about, if you can imagine, again, a small little camprise van, in the back of the van was a porta potty. And they do refer to that in the movie, and and they argued about whose turn it was to dump the porta potty. That became Daryl's job after a while, dumping the porta potty. Go ahead. One of the down arrows there. Awesome. So Terry and I, Terry's 4, I'm 5. Christmas, a big part of our family growing up. Mom loved to bake and to decorate. Our mom used to travel across Canada. I would not be surprised if maybe at one time over the years she might have been visited Eric Graves. She visited schools for 30 years. One of the stories Mom used to share was Terry would be 4 years old, sitting on our living room floor, trying to make a pyramid out of these wooden blocks that we had. They were wooden blocks, alphabet, different colors. Terry tried to make a pyramid. You'd get 3 rows built up, and they'd fall down because the carpet was so uneven. So he built it back up again. Get 5 or 6, 7 rows built up, and they would tumble down again. The whole time that this was happening, Mom was in the kitchen watching what Terry was doing. And she noticed that Terry never thought about quitting or walking away, getting mad or frustrated. He stuck with it. Built all those rows up, the pyramid started to take that shape, and finally able to get that last block on top of the pyramid. When Mom shared that story, she would then say, I wonder, even at 4 years old, if that wasn't an early indication of that determination and never give up attitude that we saw of Terry in 1980. Go ahead. We moved to BC, to Vancouver area, to Surrey first, which is in the Vancouver area, in 1966. Terry was 8, I was 9. Our parents taught us it was important to have manners, respect other people, work hard, and one of the things Mom used to say all the time was, finish what you start. If you start something, you see it to the end. If it was joining a sports team, you see it to the end of that season. If you don't want to play the following year, that's fine, but you finish it to the end. When we were really small, it might have been something as simple as coloring a picture in a coloring book. Even if you're coloring a picture, you're making a mess of it, finish that picture before you turn the page. Finishing what you start became one of Terry's mottos through junior high, high school, university, the Marathon of Hope. Here, this picture, Mom and Dad didn't have an automatic dishwasher back then, so we had to do our chores, and Terry, luckily that night it was his turn to wash the dishes, and I was the one who was drying. Go ahead. The 4 Fox kids, Terry, Daryl in the middle, myself, and the little girl in front is our sister Judy. Judy more recently has been the one who's organized or coordinated all of the Terry Fox runs that happen around the world. So just not here at Eric Graves or throughout Nova Scotia, across Canada, there's 34 countries around the world that now host some form of a Terry Fox walk or run. Mom and Dad and Judy were in Cuba in 2010. Cuba has the second largest number of Terry Fox runs next to Canada. Close to 2 million people participate. I was in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East 2 years ago in the United Emirates. They had 20,000 people come out to their city run, all wearing Terry Fox Run t-shirts. So it just shows that Terry's message of hope and making a difference isn't just here in Canada, but around the world. Terry loved sport, and Terry loved to play sports. Always cool for me to be in a gymnasium. This is Terry's second home, and he loved to compete, loved to challenge himself. We moved from Surrey to Port Coquitlam in 1968. Terry was 10 years old, and this is where Terry met his good friend Doug Allward. So if I can, this is Terry here, and Doug Allward right there beside him. So they became good friends when they were 10, played soccer, basketball. Doug became an outstanding cross-country runner, and Terry loved every sport. Today we kind of focus on one sport to specialize in. We're going to go on to the NHL, whatever it is. Terry wasn't afraid to fail. If he wasn't very good at a new sport he tried, he knew he was going to have to work a little bit harder at it. That's just the way he was. Go ahead. The four Fox kids, 1970, Terry's probably 12 years old here, 13 maybe. For us, the schools that we went to in Port Coquitlam, our elementary schools went to grade 7. We had our junior highs went from grade 8 to 10. So I was already at Maryhill Junior High School in grade 9. Terry came in September as one of the new grade 8s, and without exaggeration, I can tell you he's probably one of the smallest boys in the school. Tried out for the basketball team. Now that he's in junior high, he's going to play basketball. Tried out for the grade 8 basketball team, and without exaggeration, he wasn't very tall. Tried out for a couple weeks. After one of the practices, coach pulled Terry away from the rest of the team, sat him down, and said, "You know what, Terry? You're probably not going to play very much this year. You're probably going to sit on the bench. You're not very tall. You're improving, but your skill level isn't quite where we need it to be. Maybe the wrestling team or cross-country team would be more suited for you." Terry took that as a challenge. I remember at lunchtime, walking by the gym. There was Terry in the gym working on his skills, throwing extra baskets, shooting extra baskets, working on his dribble. On the weekends, Terry and Doug would find a basketball hoop somewhere in town, play one-on-one. Terry never quit that grade 8 year. He got to play a little bit here and there when the score got out of reach, but by the time he got to grade 10, his final year of junior high, Terry was one of the starting guards and the captain of the team. And that was with that same core group of guys that were there in grade 8. But Terry showed what you can accomplish when you work at it, when you set your mind to something. Terry could move himself up amongst the ranks. Go ahead. Terry graduated from senior high school, grade 12, in 1976. Terry is, where are we? Number 4 right there. It's 1976. Terry's, I see the Montreal Canadiens emblem back there. Terry's a Terry was a Boston Bruins fan, number 4 for Bobby Orr. When Terry graduated in 1976, he had already planned on going in the fall to Simon Fraser University. And I remember that summer, Terry telling his buddies that when he goes to Simon Fraser, it's in the Vancouver area, about 10 kilometers from downtown Vancouver. Terry told his buddies, when I go to Simon Fraser, I'm going to try out for the basketball team there. And Terry's buddies would say to Terry, don't waste your time. You're not good enough. You're never going to make a university basketball team. They don't even know who you are. And Terry would simply say to his friends, I won't know unless I try. And that's what Terry did. He went to Simon Fraser, tried out for the basketball team, and on sheer guts and determination, he made the university team his freshman year. One of the reasons his buddies were saying that is if you don't know anything about Simon Fraser, in the Vancouver area, been at university since 1965, so is still fairly young when Terry was there in 76. It's the only university in Canada that plays in the NCAA, or a Division II school. They play against American colleges and universities. bring kids from all over Canada on full ride scholarships to play different sports. Terry wasn't going to be one of them. He went up there, made a junior varsity team. The coaches would tell our parents, we couldn't cut Terry. He made every one of those kids that we brought from across Canada better by the example that he showed on the basketball floor. He might not have been the best athlete, might not have been the best basketball player, but without a doubt, he was the hardest worker. And that was gonna rub off on all those kids that we had brought from across Canada. Go ahead. It was during that first year at university that Terry developed a bit of a sore knee. He was also playing rugby and soccer in the Vancouver area at a pretty high level. And like any of us that play sports or out in the schoolyard, whatever it is, we get bumps and bruises, twisted ankle. Terry developed a sore knee, thought it was a rugby injury. That's how they treated it. Terry didn't like to go see a doctor. Very stubborn, unfortunately kind of a fox trait. And he ignored it. Should have gone to see earlier. He woke up one morning, March 1977, still in his first year at university, and he could barely walk because the pain was so bad. Dad took Terry to the hospital and did some tests, and that's where they found out that he had a type of bone cancer, as mentioned earlier, osteogenic sarcoma. He was only 18, not that much older than the older students here. I was 19. So we're talking 40 years ago, 1977. Terry and I didn't know very much about cancer. People didn't talk about it the way we do today. You guys are probably far more knowledgeable than we ever were at the age that we were at. Terry was devastated. He thought he'd never be able to play sports again. He was told in 4 days he was going to have to lose part of his right leg. I remember the night before his operation saying to Terry, how come you have to have cancer? Why you? All your dreams are coming true. Going to university, playing basketball at a high level. Terry's going to Simon Fraser, who's going to be a phys ed teacher in high school. Terry would say to me, he said, Fred, why not me? I've been told all my life I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, this is just another challenge I have to overcome. Terry had his operation next morning. Within about 2 weeks, fitted with an artificial leg, same kind of leg you've seen in photos or videos or in the movie, learning how to walk all over again. The people at the rehab center couldn't believe what they were seeing. They'd never seen anybody quite like Terry. That's the way Terry was. He wasn't going to sit around, mope around the house, feel sorry for himself. He was going to get on with it. But it was truly the next 18 months that impacted Terry the most. Terry had to take chemotherapy treatment. Made him very sick. He took that for 18 months. He lost his hair. His hair grew back nice and curly after that. But it really impacted Terry. Mostly what impacted him was he saw other people going through the same thing. Young people, older people. It soon became apparent it didn't matter how sick Terry was or how much pain he was in. It concerned him more seeing other people going through the same thing. It concerned him more that he saw other people in pain, other people being sick. Terry would go back and forth from home to there at different periods of time taking chemotherapy. Some of the kids that he saw in hospital 1 week, and he'd go back the next week, and he had learned that they might have passed away. Terry decided he wanted to do something about it. Go ahead. Not only, did Terry have to learn how to walk again, Terry decided he was going to run. Figure out how to run with an artificial leg. Terry got healthier, got stronger. Terry, as I mentioned, didn't think he'd ever be able to play sports again. Don't know how many of the students know the name Rick Hansen. Rick Hansen, also from British Columbia, he wheelchaired around the world around 1985-86. He had been paralyzed a number of years earlier, and he had phoned Terry up and asked Terry if he wanted to play wheelchair basketball. This picture here is a couple of trophies that Terry and Rick and Team BC had won at national championships playing wheelchair basketball. Go ahead. So Terry, he started to run. In February of 1979, Terry decided, I'm going to figure out how to run with an artificial leg. Not many people, if any, were really running with artificial limbs back there. In fact, the artificial leg that Terry had was more designed for walking, not for running. By this picture here, birthday, July 28, 1979, Terry is really strong. It's been 2.5 years since he was diagnosed with cancer. Chemotherapy treatment is all done. He's strong. He's probably running 15 to 20 kilometers a day right now. He's lifting weights. He's in great health. You know, it's kind of deemed or thought that Terry is cancer-free now. A month after this picture, a month and a half after this picture was taken, September long weekend, Labor Day long weekend, Terry, Daryl, Doug, and Rick Hansen went up to Prince George, BC. Go ahead. Terry was going to run a 30-kilometer race up there. And Terry started at the start line with everybody else. Terry was the only amputee. Everybody else was able-bodied. Rick Hansen was going to compete in his wheelchair. Terry started at the start line with everybody else, but when that race was over, he had finished last. Dead last. The last person to come underneath that finish banner. But being in last place didn't matter to Terry. All that mattered to Terry that day was he crossed the finish line, he finished what he started. That thing that our mom taught us from a very young age. Finish what you started. You can't see it, but Terry's got a big grin, smile on his face, so proud of what he had done that day, the goal that he had accomplished for himself. It's an 8-hour drive back from Prince George back to Port Coquitlam. They got home late. The next morning, Terry patiently waited for Mom to get up, and then he told her about what had happened the day before, and then he broke the news. He said, "Mom, I haven't been exactly honest with you. I haven't been training because I want to run the Vancouver Marathon like Terry had told us, which would have been in May 1980. Terry said, "Mom, I've been training because I want to run across Canada to raise money for cancer research so no one else will have to suffer the cause of cancer." Our mom got mad. She yelled at Terry and she said, "Why the heck would you want to do that? It's a crazy idea. Run from the Alberta-BC border, finish in Stanley Park." Terry would say, "Mom, not only people in BC get cancer, people right across Canada do. I have to start in St. John's, Newfoundland." Go ahead. And that's what Terry and Doug did on April 12th, 1980, over 37 years ago now. You know what? Before Terry even got to Newfoundland, to St. John's, Terry had ran over 5,000 kilometers in training before he even arrived there. Terry figured that he had to go through all the injuries that he might face. Go through all the injuries, get his body prepared. So like any of us that are trying out for the soccer team, hockey team, swimming team, whatever it is, you have to prepare. Preparing for an exam, test, you have to prepare. Terry realized that. When he arrived in Newfoundland, kind of middle of April, -5, -10, snowing a little bit, the wind, climbing those hills, first one right out of St. John's, climbing the hills, the wind was howling, you know, they got 2 or 3 weeks out, the heater had broke down in the van, Terry was meeting all kinds of obstacles. I think anybody else might have said, "The heck with this, I'm going back home," but not Terry. Nothing was going to stop Terry from getting back home. Terry actually wrote in his journal one night that if I quit now, I'll be letting so many people down. Not very many people knew what Terry was doing when he left Newfoundland and then caught the ferry from Port aux Basques to Cape Breton. When he left St. John's, Terry thought, maybe I'll raise $1 million. He got to Port aux Basques. They raised $10,000. The population was 10,000 people. That's what Terry came up with the idea of maybe raising $1 for every Canadian. At the time, the population was 24 million people. Slowly, when Terry came to Nova Scotia, the momentum is building. More people realized what he was doing. More money is being raised. He went to PEI, New Brunswick, in Quebec. Finally, when he hit the Ontario border, go ahead there, Ian. When he hit on the Ontario border, the momentum was crazy. More people, more money was being raised. I never saw Terry run any of those training miles. I wasn't living at home. Kind of took it for granted what he was doing. When he told me he was going to run across Canada, being an older brother and off doing my own thing, I said, "That's awesome, that's great. Good luck, we'll see you when you get home." Not realizing what impact Terry was going to be having on our country and how Canadians would respond to what Terry was doing. I was in Toronto with Terry. Mom and Dad and Judy and I flew there. July 11th is when Terry arrived in Toronto, ran with Terry. I finally got to see that commitment and dedication in every step that Terry was running. Go ahead. Not only did Terry have to run in that cold weather initially in Newfoundland, the strong winds along the St. Lawrence River in Quebec, but also that heat and humidity that Terry faced in southern Ontario, I'm sure took its toll on Terry's, not only his health, but his energy level. I left Terry, was only with him for 3 or 4 days in Toronto, left him on July 14th, and flew back home. Go ahead. A month later, my wife and I were on vacation. We jumped in our car and we drove east. And now it's the middle of August, and we finally found Terry, Daryl, and Doug in northern Ontario, south of a town called Wawa, Ontario. It's around August 16th. And I noticed something different than I saw of Terry when he was in Toronto. He was thinner, he looked very tired, he didn't have that same lively stride in his running step. Every 2 miles when he stopped for a water break, he had a bad cough. At the end of the day, that cough persisted. We thought maybe he had a cold or the flu or something. I think at this point, middle of August, Terry probably maybe knows what's going on, that there's something else going on, but he wasn't going to be telling anybody because he'd be worried that maybe a doctor would say, sorry Terry, you can't run anymore, and nothing was going to stop Terry from getting home. Go ahead. Terry loved Northern Ontario, reminded him a lot of home. Terry was running a marathon every day. I don't know if the students can really understand how far 42 kilometers is, but Terry was running that close to that every day for 143 days. I ran a marathon 4 months ago in Eugene, Oregon. It took me a week to recover. Terry was doing that every day. Getting up in the morning, 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, on the highway at 5, running that marathon every day, going to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and starting it all over again, day after day after day. Go ahead.
Mr. Fox,
Yes?
that's as if I calculated, if you ran from Eric Graves down to Portland, down to certain frontage to Macbeth Mall, there and back 8 times. That's how far I was running on one leg every day.
So it made an amazing thing to know that he was running that. But again, nothing was going to stop Terry. They kept track of the mileage on that Camp Rise van they had. I was with Terry around mile 3051. This would have been August 18th. Terry ran 5,300 kilometers, over 5,300 kilometers. You know what? Terry didn't get up every morning, I'm going to run a marathon today. He set little goals for himself. He got on the highway, and in the distance, he might have spotted a tall tree, maybe a kilometer or so down the road, and he'd run to that. That would be one goal accomplished. Then maybe it was a telephone pole that he spotted in the distance. He'd run to that. You know, another goal accomplished. Maybe it was a curve in the highway. Terry set little goals for himself throughout the day to accomplish, and then at the end of the day, he might have ran 42 or 50 kilometers a day. Go ahead. The very last picture taken of Terry and I during the Marathon of Hope. It's August 19th. You know, when you watch Terry run in video or a picture, he's got a determined, serious look on his face. When Terry was around family and friends, he was the one that was having the most fun. Always joking around, always hamming it up, being a prankster. Teresa's taking our picture, and he's hamming it up. 5 minutes after this picture is taken, Terry's back on the highway, running west on the Trans-Canada Highway. Teresa and I had to get back to work. We jumped in our car, drove home, went home 3 days later. This is August 19th. On September 1st, I'm with my mom and dad. We're in Chilliwack, BC, an hour and a half east of Vancouver at the Armed Forces Base. They're having a fundraiser for the Marathon of Hope. At the end of the day, we're heading home. Dad decides out of the blue to turn on the radio to listen to the news. And wouldn't you know, the very first news story on the radio is Terry Fox is in hospital in Thunder Bay. That's all they said. no cell phones back then. Nobody could phone mom and dad to let them know what they're doing. What was going on? We still had an hour's drive back to Port Coquitlam, all the time wondering what was happening. We pulled into their driveway, got out of the car, the phone was ringing in the house, Mom ran into the house to answer the phone, and it was Terry. Terry had been trying to get a hold of Mom and Dad all day. And then Terry said to Mom, yes, I'm in hospital in Thunder Bay because the cancer has returned to my lungs and I have to come back home and get better. Mom and Dad flew to Thunder Bay to bring Terry home. I stayed back home with Judy. She wasn't old enough to be by herself yet. We watched the TV news the next night, and there was Terry laying flat on his back on that stretcher, saying to all of Canada through the media, if there's any way I can get back out there and finish my run, I will. But if I'm not able to, I don't want one single person to continue running those miles from Thunder Bay to Vancouver Island for me, but I hope all of Canada continues my dream. Go ahead. Terry came home a couple weeks later. The Governor General came from Ottawa to Port Coquitlam, presented Terry with a companion of the Order of Canada, the highest honor any ordinary Canadian citizen could receive. At this point, Terry's thinking he's going to get back out to Thunder Bay in the spring of 1981 to finish his run in April or May. But that simply didn't happen. Terry's health didn't get any better. He got sicker. The treatment that they were giving him just wasn't working. Christmas came, then January, February of 1981, we realized he wouldn't survive. Somebody said to Terry, what do you think of us hosting an annual event every year in your name? We'll continue to raise money for cancer research. Terry thought that would be a wonderful idea. It was Terry that suggested that the Terry Fox runs happen in September because he was forced to stop in Thunder Bay on September 1st. Terry passed away on June 28, 1981. Go ahead. And this appeared in a Toronto newspaper the next day, kind of symbolizing that Terry was passing on the Marathon of Hope Baton on to each and every one of us to continue. And that's what you guys are doing every year when you've had your Terry Fox runs. Whether it's been here or the elementary school before you've come there at Ridge, you've continued. Terry would be so proud. Terry actually said that when he was in Toronto, still a month and a half before he hit Thunder Bay, Terry said, even if I don't finish, we need others to continue. It's got to keep going without me. During the Marathon of Hope, Terry would say, we will all be touched by cancer in one way or another. May not be personally, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, the neighbor down the street. We're going to know somebody. And I think the same reason applies today. We will all be touched by cancer. Terry showed us that one person can make a difference. Individually, all of you can make a difference, no matter what it is, whatever you're passionate about. As a community, as a school community, you can make a difference in the lives of so many people. That's what Terry was hoping to do. And like I said earlier, Terry would be so proud to know that at this point he has